Okay, this is the first time I've ever done one of these things, so part of it's a little off, but and I'm doing it by myself. That's why it's taking a little bit to get everything ready. And I lost my voice a few days ago, so it's the perfect time to do it. But anyway, so I wanted to first answer some of the questions that were on Blackboard, and then I wanted to go into what we actually discussed. Mine was an international dialogue, so we discussed a lot of like foreign issues. And one of the first questions was the louder voices, I guess you could say, in the room on Blackboard. And how did I feel they were given an opportunity, I guess? Well, they were of course given an opportunity because we always heard what everyone had to say. If anyone had to say anything. And then the quieter people in the room, of course, did not have to say anything if they didn't want to. They were always encouraged to say something. Although I felt it was a little stupid that we just sat there and stared at each other for a few minutes straight sometimes, when we obviously needed to move on. There was no point in just sitting there and looking at each other. It wasn't going to make people say anything. It was just making them feel uncomfortable. I could tell what was happening. I even made some comments during the thing, which probably made the instructors not like me too much, and that was, are we going to move on, when we had sat there for a minute and a half just staring at each other. We had already shared opinions, and we weren't getting any other opinions out of that. Yet, they were, I guess, giving time, maybe making a quota, meeting that. I don't know, but that was just stupid. You shouldn't have to be forced to just sit there and stare at people. That is really dumb. I mean, I agree with the whole discussion thing, and I understand why we do it. It's to converse. Well, one of the reasons is to converse, to get to know and get to accept other opinions of other people. Don't immediately assume that they're wrong because it's their opinion. That kind of thing. I mean, I can't obviously name them all because there's a ton. But those are the kind of issues I guess you wanted us to see. But I just think it's kind of stupid. You shouldn't have to sit there and stare and hope that somebody else is going to come up with another opinion. No, it's not going to happen. But yeah, so I voiced my opinion in there, and mine was more or less, we got into a lot of stereotypical things. I guess disproving stereotypes, and then also saying why there are stereotypes. And my opinion on that is we have to have stereotypes in society. That's human nature, to create stereotypes. We create them to categorize in our mind. Our mind is always is like a file cabinet. Excuse me. It's like a file cabinet. We're always categorizing. We're always placing stuff in certain orders in our minds. And to categorize someone else is a stereotype. But that's just what we do. And it's also judging books by its cover, but I mean, not everyone does that, I guess. But usually there's a stereotype for a reason. That's, I guess, what my point is. It's not like one person does something and the whole world looks at Gerald, and because Gerald does this and he's black or he's Latino or white, it's not like every white person is like Gerald. But if there are 50 Geralds in a pretty low populated area and they act pretty similar, then yeah, well, 50 Geralds of that race, or whatever it would be, whatever the stereotype for the Gerald would be. If that were to exist, then yes, of course, there's going to be a stereotype, and there's a reason for that. I mean, why would you think every Gerald's different if they all acted the same? There should be a stereotype there. There's no reasoning there shouldn't be. And then another point I had, we only made it like halfway through the discussion, because things started to get heated up with country talk. And, well, we talked about the continents too and the stereotypes on those. And one of them was Asia, and everyone was saying, oh, yeah, I guess you could say they're the smart ones. Yeah, okay. Stereotype for that. They're also hardworking. Yes, stereotype for that. And then they were saying, but China kind of steals the show, and we shouldn't do that. We should hear everyone's opinion. We should hear everyone's voice, and we shouldn't just look at China or just look at North Korea and say all of Asia's like that. It's stupid. What? Of course we're going to do that. The people who are the loudest groups are going to be heard. And if you're just going to be sitting in the back and you're going to be, I don't know, South Vietnam, South Korea, then, I mean, they had their time, and they're not big anymore. They don't talk. They've lost momentum, and we're not going to keep on showing them in the spotlight if they're not going to speak out whatever they have to say. It would be stupid to waste our time and efforts on people who don't want to say anything. It's the same thing as in our dialogue. Why would we sit there and stare at people who are not going to say anything? It's not like I have anything against them, because that's the way I used to be. It's the way I am usually. But why I don't, obviously if I'm not speaking, I don't want to speak. I'm not just waiting and collecting my thoughts. If I don't want to speak, I don't want to speak. You shouldn't have to make them speak. But the people who are loudest, for instance in Asia, China, and I'm just going to use North Korea again because there are a bunch of psychos over there. Not all of them, but some of them, according to the stereotype. Yeah, they are the loudest in Asia. They are. And that just, India is loud too, but it doesn't, heck, India is a completely different topic. I could get into that, but that would take a lot more time. But yeah, anyway, so China is, everyone sees the hardworking, intelligent, but they also see the strict government, and that's because China is the dominant country in Asia. It really is. I mean, Russia's kind of there too, but it's not really, Russia's almost off on its own. It's almost a Europe kind of place, but anyway, so yeah, why shouldn't we give time to the people who are going to be the loudest? They make the stereotypes. What, are we going to give everyone equal shares of everything? It doesn't work like that. If you're going to place yourself out there and take the risk, then you deserve the reward if that risk was worth it and if it succeeded. Obviously that can backfire, but that's another story for another time. Now, basically my point is stereotypes are necessary. Your brain classifies to accomplish that, and the dialogue thing, what the purpose of the dialogue thing anyway was just to realize that everyone has their own opinions, and just because they have a different opinion, they're not wrong. They just aren't right. No. Okay, well, yeah, anyway, so, yeah, that's the vlog thing. I hope whoever actually listened to this, if you ever listened to it or you just let it play in the background, liked it. I am Dalton McCaffrey. I should have introduced myself at the start, but I didn't. So, well, and this was my international vlog.